back to my channel. It's your boy Stevia Toy. For today's video, I kind of wanted to touch upon something that I feel like I have dealt with pretty much my whole life, and it's something that I feel like is pretty relatable, and something that I feel like pretty much everyone goes through on a daily basis. And for me, that is self-hate. Specifically for me, I wanted to talk about being gay, being depressed, and being body dysmorphic, and how it kind of like affects my daily life. So jumping right into it, I feel like things like depression are not really talked about, at least openly. I feel like it's like a sensitive topic altogether, and at times it's not even acknowledged by certain people, especially if they can't really relate to it themselves. And personally for me, it's one of those things that I hate. People always say it's okay to not be okay, but then when you say you're not okay, crap hits the fan. And it's like whenever depression is mentioned, you're bombarded with like questions that feel more like prying, concern that feels more like pity. And when you finally get that little glimpse of acknowledgement, it feels like judgment rather than acknowledgement. But yeah, I digress. My coming out video, I mentioned that I knew I was gay at a young age. Even though I know it's something that I should be proud of, especially considering there's like pride and all these like gay icons, it's not. A lot of my friends know that one of my biggest fears is being jumped, specifically like for being gay. And yeah, at times I found myself blaming me, when in reality it wasn't my fault, but society's rather. It's like society's image of gay people in the media always seems so negative to me. I don't know. And it always made me feel overly paranoid about something that I really have no control over, even though, you know, ignorant people might say otherwise. Sad to admit this because I did kind of say in my first video that I did, you know, get bullied in high school, but in middle school, I feel like I was kind of mixed in with that crowd of people who were slightly homophobic, and sometimes they would, you know, call people the F word, you know, for being gay. You know, thinking back to those days, it kind of makes me sad that I didn't really stick up for anyone that they would target or call the F word. It's moments like that that I wish I could just go back and change, and I wish I kind of had the courage to speak up. One of those things that kind of made me hate myself at times. I was pretty much that asshole in like Glee, like those people who were like very homophobic, but they were actually gay themselves. Even until this day, like I still find myself kind of like applauding all these like gay vlog couples who are so confident and, you know, not really scared to show PDA in public. I always get too like self-conscious, too worried that someone might say something, you know, oh my god, what's the word? I'll insert it below. I always have these brain farts when I'm recording. But yeah, moving on from the gay aspect of this video, I wanted to kind of touch upon my struggle with body dysmorphia. For anyone who is not really sure what that is, it's like a mental health disorder where you're like overly focused on like what you perceive to be flaws, pretty much on yourself, I guess. So for me, I've always struggled with acne at one point, but now I feel like I struggle with like ingrown hairs. Another thing that I struggled with was my weight. So when I did date Kenny, and I'm not blaming Kenny, but when I did date Kenny, and actually after I moved back to Boston, so this has nothing to do with Kenny, but yeah, I pretty much reached a point where I lost control of my weight. You know, I would see myself in the mirror and I didn't really like what I saw, but for some reason, what I saw in the mirror never really matched up with what I saw on the scale. So I'll insert a photo here. So that was me in like October, like mid-October 2019, and I went to go eat with some friends and they had posted this photo of me, and it was that photo that kind of opened my eyes and made me realize how much I let myself go. Personally for me, like a current struggle that I have right now is that I have dropped from 212 down to like 145, sometimes 143 pounds. And you know, some of my friends, my family, they're a bit worried that I might have developed an eating disorder, but it's just weird to me. And I feel like this is gonna kind of sound like an eating disorder thing, but whenever I look at myself in the mirror, I feel like I look fat or unattractive. But then when I see a photo posted of me that my friends took, I think I look really skinny. So it's just interesting to me how there's like this whole disconnect between, I guess, the way I perceive myself in the mirror versus how I'm seen through like a camera roll, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't really know where this stemmed from, but I feel like throughout elementary school and middle school, there were just a lot of kids, hurtful ass kids. Yeah, there was just like a lot of kids who used to like tell me I was ugly or like unattractive. And like thinking back, I feel like it was mainly because I was Asian and like the only Asian, I guess, aside from my siblings in the school. I suffered from like moderate to severe acne at one point, and I just remember like there were times where I would literally skip class just to avoid being seen. Even today when I find myself like breaking out or just having like a really bad pimple, it's just really like triggering. So yeah, my friend called me, so I don't know if the camera angle is gonna be a little different, but yeah, I was saying like when I was with Kenny, like, you know, he had to deal with hell whenever I had ingrown hair. Like it was triggering enough to always put me in a bad mood pretty much. It's kind of funny looking back at it. It's like every little thing to me that seems like a very bad flaw isn't that bad to other people, but I just can't stop focusing on it. It's like when you know there's a stain on your clothes and you just can't stop looking at it, even though you know no one else will see it, if that makes sense. It's like all these things always just made me feel like 5,000 times uglier. It made me feel less confident, and it just sucks that I always had such a strong hold on me. One thing I am super grateful for to my ex-boyfriend is he always made me feel beautiful even though I always felt ugly. I wish I can like get over these things and kind of embrace them about myself rather than like hating on myself all the time and having like a little pity party, you know what I mean? It just gets like very draining, and I feel like when one thing is over, another thing happens, and it's just like this long ass cycle. Like I recently sifted through like a bunch of my old photos, and I feel like I deleted like all my photos within the span of like a year, because like looking at the photos, I felt like there was like a disconnect. Like I feel like when I saw myself, it didn't look like me. I just hated the way I looked, so I feel like I just removed any like reminders that I guess that would remind me of how I looked when I weighed that much. The last thing I wanted to talk about is depression, but for me it's kind of like a hard thing to talk about, or like explain rather. For me personally, I always feel like there's a difference between being depressed versus being sad. For me, sadness is usually temporary and capable of being like overcome, but depression can last like a long ass time. Sometimes it can even last like forever, and what's sad is that sometimes you're not even 100% sure of like why you feel the way that you do. It's like if you get it, then you get it. If you don't, you don't, you know? A lot of us deal with these type of demons, and a lot of us don't make it out sometimes. Well, that's enough doom and gloominess for this video. I didn't want to talk too much about depression. I feel like everything that I've spoken about kind of has tied into my depression, but even for me, I feel like it's a struggle, you know, knowing why I feel depressed at times. I think it's like the worst feeling when you tell someone that you're depressed and they just bring up like why, like you have a perfect life. And to me it's like someone can have like the perfect life, or you know, people can think someone has a perfect life, but that might not actually be the reality of the situation. So I feel like, you know, there are times where you really have to like step back and put yourself in like someone else's shoes. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video, guys. It was a bit of a sensitive and I guess controversial topic for some people, but I feel like topics regarding your own mental health and well-being are things that should be expressed rather than things that should be like closeted. Yeah, closeted, I guess. Can't think of a better word right now. So yeah, thanks for joining me and getting to know more about the inner workings of my mind, I guess. Don't forget to comment. What? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in for my next video. Stevia Toy out. Also, yeah, I forgot to say this, but I dyed my hair and I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, I like the way it turned out. I feel like I don't see this color that often, so I guess I feel kind of unique. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching.